Got a group of girls all lined up and they've been out there for ages.
Holy
Are you
shit.
flattered, man?
Right.
Like,
That's amazing.
if I had girls lined up for me, I'd just be so stoked.
I haven't seen him. I didn't realize that was going on. That's awesome.
Do you normally go have a peek out the front at shows and stuff like that?
I mean, it just depends on the day. I mean, I don't avoid it by any means. Usually, usually I end up just walking by there as I go get coffee. But I guess we kind of got driven in by the back. So, but I'll usually go out at the end of the night and come say hi to everybody and kind of hang out for a little bit.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
You've been playing since like '98, but you're pretty young when you started, weren't you? How old were you when you started something corporate?
Yeah, I mean, in '98 I was probably 16, 17 years old.
Yeah. So you're still relatively young now, and you've been around for, doing music 15, 16 years?
Yeah, I mean, let's think here. Something corporate was signed like 2000, 2001, so yeah, I've been professionally playing for about 15 years.
Yeah.
16 years coming up on, but yeah, I mean, we were doing it in high school, playing nightclubs and stuff. My senior year of high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. How many years were you playing before you're like, oh, I've made it now? Like, when were the radio playing your songs and people turning up to your shows?
You know, it's funny. Like, I don't know that I ever really. I mean, you certainly have moments where you're like, wow, this is legit and this is real and this is big and. But I don't know, I feel like that term, like, made it is so funny. Like, I mean, I regularly, like, pinch myself that I actually have a job in music and that I can, perform and play for a living. And to me, that's making it. But yeah, I don't know. There's never been, like, a moment where I'm like, I'm here, I've arrived. I'm a firm believer in, like, doing the work. And I think that... just being able to do the work is kind of what I look for.
Yeah, but it's not like it's comfortable for you now, is it? It's not a struggle being a musician.
It's always a struggle being a musician. Yeah, I mean, I think the struggle is once you've gotten a certain place, like you can't get comfortable in this job. If you're comfortable, you're not going to stay relevant. Is it a struggle to put food on the table or something? Not necessarily, but. Certainly, like I've started over twice in this career, going from something corporate to Jack's Mannequin and going from Jack's to this. I mean, both times were risky and certainly you watch the bank account kind of going like this and going down and you have to throw everything you got at it to make sure that people come back and care about what you're doing because it is a risk for sure to start over like that.
And is it hard to keep, reinventing yourself over the years with these new bands? Is it, do you try to stay the same to please the fans, or do you want to do your own thing, or is there a bit of both?
I think you can't really think about that. I mean, it's not to say it doesn't cross your mind, and there isn't that worry, like how is this next thing going to be received? But I think, the most important thing is really staying inspired. So hard as it may be to start over and do something new, I think the flip side of that is it would be much harder to stay stagnant and stay in one place for the sake of keeping fans happy or doing what's easy or doing what makes you money. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but it's also really rewarding because when you're on the hunt for inspiration and you're finding new things that stimulate you, and it at least in my case, it's what keeps the fire lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the days when you were doing something corporate, you had a song, Space, on the OC. Was that a big deal? Because you would have been a young bloke and that was such a popular show. When your song got played, did you watch the episode and crowd around with your family?
I guess so. I mean, it's so funny because I grew up in the OC.
Oh, really?
So there was always kind of like this tongue-in-cheek, like, wink about that show, like, because it wasn't real on any level, but certainly, those moments where, where a big TV show or a film or whatever, takes your song and puts it out into a larger stream, with Jack's, like we had. I was on an episode of One Tree Hill, which was a huge thing for Jack's Mannequin. And those moments are always awesome to be embraced by popular culture in the larger sense for sure.
Yeah. What can we expect from your set list tonight? Are you going to be doing the Into the Wilderness stuff or some old stuff too?
Yeah, the In the Wilderness record will be played, pretty thoroughly. You'll get at least 7 or 8 tunes off that, and then another 8 to 10 tunes. That'll be a mix of sort of jacks and something corporate songs as well.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, man. And has it been a while since you've been in Australia? Do you find the fans really dig it here, or is it?
I mean, it's always the shows we've played here have always been incredible. I was here with Jax. I want to say it was probably summer of 2012.
Yeah.
Which was a great tour. We had so much fun. We were out with a lot of our friends, and the side shows that we did off of Soundwave were fantastic. To have, I mean, I think there'll be a few hundred people here tonight. We have a sold out show in Sydney. So yeah, I've always loved coming here and getting to play for the Australian fans, and I love traveling here. Like, we got in yesterday in Brisbane, and I pretty much have been wandering around since the second I got off the airplane. So we'll see what it has in store with this new project, but so far the vibe's been pretty good.
Yeah. I was reading, on your Wikipedia earlier, and I know you did a song with Tommy Lee, and it just seems like you guys are two opposites. Like, he's a party glam rocker, and there's no lines of coke on this backstage table, so it seems like you're definitely at opposite ends. How did you make friends with that guy?
Yeah, I don't know that Tommy really does a lot of coke or anything these days. I think that's probably a different era. But Tommy was a fan of the Second Something Corporate record and reached out to me because he was working on a record where he was collaborating with songwriters, and he asked if I would come join him and write for him on his record, and we just hit it off. And I wrote a bunch of songs for an album he put out called The Ride, and then and in the process we became close, and he ended up playing drums on the first Jack's Mannequin album.
That's so cool.
And we became buddies. He narrated a documentary that I put out, and we still keep in touch, fairly regularly. And he's really just he's a teddy bear of a guy. He's a really, really sweet human being who loves music, and he just doesn't. He's not cynical. He's just a sweet guy, and I really appreciate that in anybody who's been in this business for as long as he has.
He seems like he gets into a lot of different music as well. He's done stuff with you and Deadmau5 and all these different kind of genres.
Yeah, he loves pop music. I mean, that's the thing about Tommy is he's like a kid at heart, and I think he still looks at he's not one of these guys who believes that the music he was making in the 80s is the only music that ever was. Whereas you find that with a lot of successful musicians is they somehow think, the new shit isn't as good as what used to be. And I think when you start thinking like that, you lose the ability to stay relevant. Yeah. And that's just not something that Tommy does, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, I'll just ask you one more question because your manager scared me a little. He said, "Make sure you're not over 10 minutes." Or
Just trying to keep my voice healthy for these shows. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I heard you practice before. It sounded great.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
No, awesome. What we do, we got a section on our website. We get people from bands to recommend, just 5 albums that you're digging at the moment for fans to come and check out. So, what's on your record player or your CD player at the moment?
I just got this new record by an act called Amazon, which is I believe it's one of the guys from Mike Snow, which I don't know if you're familiar with Mike Snow, but that's an act that I was a really big fan of. Another guy named Emil Haney just put out a solo record that I've been listening to a lot. He's written with a lot of great artists. I've been a big fan of that record. 2 records that came out last year that I couldn't get enough of were the Jenny Lewis album, I believe it was called Voyager, and then the Ryan Adams self-titled album that came out last year, which was a big one for me. 5th record, what's something else that I'm just getting into? I mean, it's actually the album's not out yet, but the EP that just came out by an act called Borns. Has been getting a lot of love on my iPod lately.